Welcome, my fellow working men and women and children. I hope you like it, because the way things are going, you'll be working till the day you die. If it doesn't kill... That's how the world used to be. You'd work yourself into the ground at, 40 years old, and there was no need for things like Social Security. I'm sure somewhere there was some politician proposing exactly that. I'm Jack Blood, the host of The Jack Blood Show. That works out good. If my name was something else and it's The Jack Blood Show, there could be a problem. It's February 24th, Friday, 2012. Generally, we do an open mind edition of the show. When we used to do this show and we'd talk about chemtrails, that would be kind of an open mind topic. Well, not anymore, and thanks certainly because of people like Mike Murphy and his crew who did the great film, the great documentary film about chemtrails and aerosol spraying. What in the world are they spraying? He's got a new feature coming out now. You can pre-buy that. We're going to tell you how to get that and break this down for you and give you information that really not many people are talking about. You just heard how outraged city councils and legislatures are about the NDAA, and I'm glad they are. But how many of them are outraged about this chemical spraying? If we told them that it was to save us from global warming, would they be okay with it? After they found out what Mike Murphy has found out with his groups of scientists and witnesses, what this is for and what's in it and how it's affecting us? Well, I know that there's some people here like Laura Presley running for city council in Austin, Texas, that take that issue very seriously, as well as fluoride in the water, farming, and GMO food. So the tide is turning, folks, and we can see even GMO is being really fought and almost eradicated around the world. Don't have any luck here yet, but the tide could be turning, as we say. I think one of the things we want to do, the wonderful alleged president that we have has put Monsanto in charge of agriculture and the FDAA here. So these are some steps we can take. But then again, I digress. That's why I'm here. Mike Murphy is with us. What in the world are they spraying? And now why in the world are they spraying? From Hawaii. Thank you, Mike, for joining us.
Oh, good morning, Jack. Thank you for covering this issue. I believe there's no greater issue that we have at hand. It's got a lot in front of us, but wow, what we're learning is not good, but we're having a lot of success in the movement.
You've time traveled with us because I think it's almost yesterday where you're at. But thanks for being with us in the United States and the mainland here. And being in Hawaii, you had an opportunity to really analyze what the spraying has done to the foliage, to the vegetation, to the farms, and even to the people of Hawaii. And they're noticing it too. These are people who live in a pristine environment, so when things begin to go wrong, it's really easy to notice, right?
Yeah, well, it was a pristine environment. I woke up at about 5 a.m., and the house that I'm staying at has a local who lives off of the land, and we had a talk for about a half an hour this morning, and he lives up by Hana. Hana is on the north side of the island, and a lot of people live off of nature. They grow their own food. They hunt boars. What is happening there? He told me everything is dying. The avocado trees, their food supply is actually dying off. Of course, God, in the past 3 years or 4 years, they have seen an incredible increase in the amount of aerosols in the sky. And the director of health, who's a public official, obviously became concerned about this issue. When we brought it to him, he did over 30 rain tests. All of those revealed what people are calling the chemtrail geoengineering footprint of aluminum, barium, and strontium. So there's a lot of things that are not so good happening here on the island. But on the other token, I'm back here to work on an ordinance called the Clean Sky Ordinance, which will ban geoengineering programs on and around the county of Maui. So we have, because it's a smaller area, and people are noticing the changes here on the island, we have public support, but we also have political support, so we have a sponsor for that bill. And we're going to get it through, Jack. I'm going to do whatever I have to do.
I mean, that's what you got to do. And when we've seen this with microchipping in Wisconsin, where the legislature had to ban the forcible implantation of subdermal microchips on their citizens. And then we were like, well, see, it's not a conspiracy. And it's the same thing with this. And this is just something, I know I talked about it in your first film, and you put great video to this, that we were always told to look up and ask why. And now we're being told not to look up and don't ask any questions. And I think a lot of people struggle with this. And I've always thought that, and I was really proud that G. Edward Griffin got involved in What in the World Are They Spraying, because he's a figurehead in the Patriot movement and the freedom movement. And, you know, if he's talking about it, it's almost okay for other people, because I know that, you know, people in the Ron Paul campaign, for instance, you know, these people that are in politics, they don't want to mention it because it sounds kooky, but it's not, is it? You've proven that they are actually spraying. These aren't just chemtrails. It's aerosol spraying chemtrails. And the excuse they're giving is geoengineering or climate modification. So why don't you go into what I'd like you to kind of cover, if you would, is some of the chemical analysis and some of the people you talked to. I know you had actually a guy who was formerly with Bechtel, a scientist, and you've had some of these people, and you've watched these conferences where these people just full on admit that they're spraying, that there's aluminum, that they're not sure what it is. But give us kind of a quick bullet point on some of the best evidence that the spraying is actually occurring and what's in it.
Well, geoengineers, although they deny that they've started these programs, they're coming out and selling, along with Bill Gates, who's funding this, selling these programs to the public, saying we would like to spray 10 to 20 million tons of toxic aluminum into your skies to mitigate global warming. So aluminum is very reflective, and it's very lightweight, so it stays up in the sky for a longer time. However, a number of studies, including certain NASA studies, indicate that putting aerosols into our sky will create a temporary cooling, but an overall warming of the planet. Those aerosols actually act as a blanket, and they trap heat. By the way, we've had an increase in nighttime highs, and also a number of studies that indicate over a 50% increase in stratospheric aerosols. One of those studies is by NOAA. However, they failed to document what the source of those aerosols were and the composition. But we know what the composition is. And in What in the World Are They Spraying? About 7 years ago, the scientists started noticing that the forest was collapsing. People were not getting the yields on their natural organic food. So they started doing soil pH tests. And what they found was very shocking. The soil pH was changing from a typical acidic soil in that area to alkaline. And we're talking about huge changes, anywhere between 10 to 12 times the normal alkalinity. And things start to die that require an acidic soil when that soil changes. So going through this quickly, but what they started doing was rain tests. And to find out why the soil was changing, what they found was shocking. They found massive amounts of aluminum, barium, and strontium. And again, geoengineers are proposing spraying these metals into our air. There are a number of geoengineering patents, which are devices which have been designed to specifically spray these toxins into our sky, and everything is matching up. What we see in the sky on a regular basis are these long trails that do not dissipate. They actually fall down, and they create a blanket, a canopy into our sky. So again, what we see in the sky matches geoengineers' plans. On the fallout in the rain, rain's a very good indicator of atmospheric contamination. It matches geoengineers' plans and numerous geoengineering patents. So it's a great concern of ours, and as a result, we are now seeing die-off around the world. Not only in ecosystems. Ecosystems are collapsing, and geoengineers are very open about this. They say if we deploy these programs, approximately 2 billion people will have food insecurity. They will have their food disrupted, but we may have to do it to save you. Well, they've already started these programs. There's no question about it, and the food is collapsing, but it's the old Hegelian dialectic, problem, reaction, solution. There are companies who profit from this. One of those is Monsanto, and they have a stress-resistant seed that will grow in this new stressed-out soil. So we know, due to the changing weather patterns, and my new film addresses actually weather control. I'd like to talk about that a little bit later if we could, but our soils are being contaminated. Natural things are dying. Monsanto's coming in and they have the seed. It's a drought-resistant seed, and it will grow in an environment that's toxified with heavy metal. So one of the things that we uncovered in the new film, Bill Gates is on public record funding geoengineering research. He's also heavily invested in Monsanto. And what that tells us is he definitely is responsible for a lot of the die-off that we're seeing, but he's also profiting by his investment in Monsanto.
Oh, well, why not? I mean, if you could make money while you're killing off the food supply and people and controlling the planet's weather and everything else that goes with that, then why not? And this is a guy that we've caught saying to an audience that he's going to use vaccinations in order to bring down the population, that he believes so much in global warming and this CO2 destroying our atmosphere and destroying our planet that he thinks the only real calculation is to get rid of people. Now that's been refuted, but you cannot argue with the words. As you know, when these people just say this stuff, they're really saying it. And, you know, you can get into a semantical argument about it, but they're saying it. So the fact that he's involved in this, for some reason, you know, could be a little scary for a lot of people because he's got this elite agenda. His dad, of course, was one of the founders of Planned Parenthood, which, you know, I mean, this is a work with Margaret Sanger. This is a long lineage of people who are involved in eugenics programs. So maybe this isn't the prime reason they're doing it. Maybe it is. Maybe it's just part of cost-benefit analysis. In the new film, Michael Murphy is with us. Why in the world are they spraying? Coming out, follow-up to What in the World Are They Spraying? We're going to tell you how to get that before Michael's done with us in this hour. You're listening to the Jack Blood Show. Do you have, in the new film then, because in the last film you guys were speculating a little bit, as we all have, that Monsanto has these aluminum-resistant seeds. Now you've got Bill Gates tied to it. So what in the way of documents, quickly, do you have to back that up?
Well, there is a new aluminum-resistant seed. We're not sure if that can be used in alkaline soil, but there is documentation of a patent owned by Monsanto, and that's the stress-resistant seed. And there's no question that they are profiting from this. And these programs are very much tied to weather control, and I'll talk about that in a minute. But due to various weather control, we have flooding in certain areas and droughts in other areas. And by the way, geoengineers, as I documented in our new trailer, Why in the World Are They Spraying? Official trailer, can be found on my website, truthmediaproductions.us. They definitely, geoengineers are open about these programs creating weather disruptions. So they say it will be droughts in certain regions, floods in various other regions. It's exactly what we're seeing, Jack. But what that can do, along with the metal toxicity, that destroys farmers' ability to grow certain crops, especially drought-ridden crops, and then Monsanto comes in there with the solution. Wow, they're saying it must be global warming that's creating these disturbances. Well, we have to make a seed for this. No. I can assure you that the challenges that we're seeing is largely, if not all, due to geoengineering programs. And again, geoengineers are selling this to the public as something that they may have to do to save us from global warming. They're very open that these programs will hurt a lot of people, but they're saying, hey, we're going to have to do it to protect the planet. Well, what we found, again, this has nothing to do with mitigating global warming because these programs trap heat. The aerosols actually trap heat. But what we found out, again, the primary ingredient is aluminum in the sky. And I interviewed meteorologists, former TV weatherman. He was a weatherman for 20 years in the new film. And he explained to me that in order to modify the weather, metal particulate, without a doubt, is a necessity to be in our sky. And what they do, after spraying that into our sky, aluminum is a very effective conductor in our sky. Most people will notice that it's lightning a lot, especially here in Hawaii, where it used to never or very rarely get lightning. They get it on a regular basis now, and that's because our sky is conductive. Our sky is 4 times more conductive than it was 30 years ago. Why is that? Well, they're spraying these conductors into the sky, and what it enables them to do is actually heat up that metal particulate, and when you heat up various parts of the sky, it expands and it lifts. And when the sky lifts, it creates a low-pressure system, a vacuum, and it gives these people, these corporations, the ability the severe storms. Other particulate, other metals that they're putting up there, and other aerosols will affect the way that clouds condense and nucleate, and they can kill a storm or even build a storm with various particulates and various technologies. That is what's happening. We have a corporatization of our weather, controlled by man, not by nature.
Well, let me tell you something, Mike. I've been almost hit by lightning 3 times in about the last 12 years, and 2 times in the last few years, and the last time was just the other night. Now, my whole life, I was never even anywhere close to being hit by lightning. And so that shows me that there certainly is an uplift here in all of that. And the other thing I wanted to point out, in weather modification, you can control food, you can control environments, you could really just wipe out entire governments and countries and regions, and it can be used even as a political tool if we're looking at it that way, if you really can control it. But here in Texas, we just had the worst drought in recorded history. Only just a little bit better than the drought we had a few years ago, which was the worst in recorded history. Almost a dust bowl occurred here, and it put an enormous amount of stress on the farms who were living day by day and paycheck to paycheck and paying off a loan. As soon as they don't have a crop, they can't pay their loan, as you understand. So then the Soros group, and he's literally George Soros and some others, are going in and snatching up this land, and then magically all of a sudden it starts raining like crazy, which it is doing here. And there was no spraying while we had our drought. As soon as the spraying came back, magically it started raining, and the environment to begin to recover. It's just amazing, and there's a lot to this. Mike Murphy is with us. Why in the world are they spraying? The new film coming out after What in the World Are They Spraying on the Jack Blood Show. We'll get back to this when we come back after this break. Stay tuned.
Alert the masses!
Welcome to the world's meeting place. American.
It's practically narcotic.
Freedom.
Oh, yes. I like very much.
Radio.
You're an American institution.
American Freedom Radio.
When I saw the State of the Black Union, Dick Gregory really moved me and a lot of my friends. I show it to everybody who comes over the house because they need to hear that, so that they know more about all of us. Because what he said affects all of us. He said something that really hit home about this phenomena of chemtrails. And, when I was a kid, I used to see these trails in the sky all the time. And so, that's cool. A jet just went over. And then you started to see a whole bunch of them. And next thing you know, everybody in your neighborhood was fighting and arguing, and you didn't know why. And you really didn't know why. I mean, everybody was fighting. So he started riffing about the chemtrails, and he started to say things that hit home so hard. And I would recommend that everybody try to get what he said online or wherever and try to get a copy of it and just listen to it.
How much lead are you putting in my neighborhood? Lead affects my thinking capacity. Lead is only one thing on the planet more dangerous than lead, and that's manganese. Manganese will make you kill your mama. And let me tell y'all something. You want to see the largest homicide rate in the world? It ain't in no black ghetto in America. It's a little town in Australia where them white folks' homicide rate is 200 times what their population is. That town is located across the street from a manganese plant. How much manganese are you spraying in my neighborhood at night while I'm sleeping?
Well, right there, you just heard Prince, Dick Gregory, and then here is Beck, all talking about chemtrails. Is that what it's going to take? Rock stars, comedians, popular culture to get involved in this before the rest of the world catches on? Well, thanks to Mike Murphy and his crew with What in the World Are They Spraying? And now Why in the World Are They Spraying? Available, coming out now, this latest film. You're going to find out. Interestingly enough, let me just say something real quick before we go back to Mike. I did an interview with Dick Gregory. I actually spent about 2 days with him in Chicago here months ago, and I've yet to put that online, but we talk about this extensively. Also, we talk about 9/11, public assassinations, and whatever you think about Dick Gregory, man, forget about it. He's one of us. Okay, I mean he's an activist for civil rights and certainly for his race, and he's an old guy. He's seen a lot, but he's no fan of Obama, and he understands all of this. So, I mean, here's Prince being influenced. He's on the Tavis Smiley show. That gets seen by millions of people. Dick Gregory speaking about this wherever he goes, and if you ever get a chance to see him, man, do. I'll publish that interview, I'm hoping, in the next week or two with some help of local activists here that can help me upload that to the internet, and it will blow your mind. What a great guy he was. We bumped heads a little bit at first, but then I became one of his favorite people, I think, real quick. And not only do I want to play that old interview or put it online, but I'm going to get Dick on the show here real soon as well, which he's promised to do. And we want to get him before he goes, because that guy is a treasure, a wealth of knowledge. On the show with us today, Mike Murphy. What in the World Are They Spraying? The last film, which he was nice enough to include me in. And I thought that was the best part, Mike. And Why in the World Are They Spraying? Which I'm not in, and I'm sure lots of people will be happy about that. That's coming out available now. And Mike's got all the dirt, all the info, all the documents to prove this. So you're going to want to get this, make copies of it, which I'm sure he's fine with, and hand it out to your family, to your relatives, because it's a very professional, sober look at aerosol spraying. Thanks again, Mike, for being on the show with us.
Oh, thanks, Jack. And we might get you on. We're still in production of the film, but I strongly believe the aha moment for a lot of people, because some people are like, well, you know, I see the skies are changing. Hundreds of lab tests are coming in from around the world revealing the ingredients that match exactly what geoengineers say they want to do. Very interesting. But when people see and what we tie in and go into the trailer, you will see there is a corporate agenda to control our weather. And if you control the weather, you can control every food supply and every political system. No question about that. And when people
you can decide what land is worth money, what political structures survive, what people survive. You control the weather, you control the planet. I think it's playing God, and I'm pretty sure that they're overshooting their bounds, and this is going to have disastrous consequences. That's usually the problem here. So, you know, there's that, I guess, Mike, as well. Quickly, so if people want to pre-order this film, and we're going to go into weather modification here. We'll talk a little bit about HAARP and why these people keep denying it when we've got all this evidence. But tell people how they can pre-buy the thing now, because they do need the purchase funds in order to get this out to as many people as possible. You're going to get your film. I'll put my name behind it because I trust Mike that much, and I shouldn't even have to say that. So how do people pre-order the film right now so they can be one of the first to get it?
Well, you can go to whyangels.info or my website, truthmediaproductions.us, to see the trailer. We funded What in the World Are They Spraying solely from donations and pre-orders. We have about 12% of our funding goal right now. We definitely need help to get this out, but I want to say What in the World Are They Spraying has woken up over 10 million people have seen that film. As a result, we have worldwide movements and ordinances being established around the world, and it's because people have partnered with us. They've taken the film, they've handed it out for free. This film will be the exact same, but we absolutely need to get this message out, and we absolutely need to partner with everybody. This is an issue that affects each and every one of us. We're seeing profound changes not only in our ecosystem, but in human health. And again, when we illustrate, everybody, just about everybody, is aware that our weather has changed dramatically. And the farmers know. I interviewed Barb, I believe Kramer from Farm Wars, Barb Peterson, I'm sorry. And the farmers are losing not only their crops, but also their land. And like you said, Soros and other corporations and governments that have this Agenda 21 objective are gaining from this. This is directly related. People know something's going on. There's no question about that. And this is the aha moment. It's the next prudent step. Again, there are many different agendas associated with these programs, but we believe getting this message out to our political officials and other people of influence, it's very important to address the weather control aspect because people can relate to that. So anyways, we're very excited. I'm working with Mariah Carey's brother, Morgan Carey, on a video back in Los Angeles of an artist who is #3 on the billboards. His name is Skull. He's a Korean reggae star, and he's got a new song called Cry Die about chemtrails. So we're working on the video. And we're hitting pop culture with this because we need everybody behind this issue. No question about it.
She can get you Dick Gregory, and Dick can get you Prince. And so if you're still shooting footage, we'll talk about that off air, and we'll see if we can pop those guys in. And, well, how many millions of people saw me in that film, and how come I don't have all those listeners now?
You do have those listeners, Jack. You do. Our editor, Barry Kulski, and he's actually co-producing the new film with me, and he's editing, doing a great job. He did a Google search. Over 10 million people, he said, have seen the first film. And it's available for free. When you deal with an issue such as this, you have to make the film available for free. There's just no question about it. As a result, we didn't get rich, I can tell you that. I'm living on a shoestring budget as an activist, but that's not what it's about. Because bottom line, money's not going to matter too much in the current situation that we're in. But what could be more important than being able to wake up and breathe in clean, fresh air? I woke up, I'm looking at a bay right now in Maui. To the right of me is Haleakala. That's the volcano, but the sun is just rising, Jack, and I'm looking above the clouds. What do I see? I see these long, wispy, stringy aerosols. And we have time-lapse, which we put in the new trailer, that show the trails being sprayed out, and then they turn into this wispy stuff. But the proof really is in the test. So one of the things that I have been encouraging people to do for the past year and a half was to test the rain, and that can be found, instructions on that on the Coalition Against Geoengineering.org, which I built with G. Edward Griffin, my former co-producer. And you can bring rain tests, because they're a great indicator of atmospheric contamination, into your public officials or into whatever arena you want to address this issue, because the proof is there.
Let me ask you this, Mike. HAARP, as we know, the inventor invented HAARP to not only use as a radar and ionizing, factory for our atmosphere, but in the blueprint, in the original schematics, it can be used for climate change, as we're seeing. Oh, I'm sorry. I mean, weather modification, with the chicken or the egg on that one, right? Or
right.
Even mind control, right? And this is what Dick Gregory and Prince were saying, was that they spray and people start arguing and fighting, and I don't know if you found manganese in this or if that even matters, because when you're looking at some of these chemicals, and you've named a few, we found others. And when we went into this years ago, I had my house burned. Someone tried to burn my house down, and I relate those two incidents, I can't help it because we were right in the middle of this massive attack, and it's a little easier now to talk about. But what is your opinion of some of these more esoteric, out there components of this spraying, such as mind control, or such as, making people unstable and angry? Because you certainly see a lot of that around.
Well, you certainly do, and I learned something from Dick Gregory today, because manganese absolutely is in the mix. They've been testing here on Maui. They have been finding that, so that's been brought to my attention. And in the first film, we covered aluminum, barium, and strontium, but it's not limited to that. There are a bunch of things, including what Clifford Carnicom found. He found biologicals, red blood cells, a bunch of things that seem very, very nefarious. I believe all of these things because I'm open, and God, Jack, I've seen a lot of things that are far beyond the comprehension of most people. So I'm very open to all these different ideas. For the integrity of the movement, we're just addressing the weather control aspect, and I'll tell you why. We've been very effective going in with the approach that we're going at, and it's been very effective in establishing ordinances and addressing this politically. We've made a ton of great progress. I believe mind control, all these other sub-issues merit and hold a lot of weight, but I can't go into the mayor's office with that because it is beyond the comprehension of most people. So with that being said, totally, and I'm very supportive of people that look into this and people that address it, and I think these are areas that need to be exposed and need to be addressed. My area right now is not only in the public realm, but also in the political realm. So the weather control, I think, is the real powerful step for doing that. And again, it was interesting when we produced the first film. I got probably 7 or 8 calls a day and several emails of people that wanted to see some of these different aspects. And I spoke with Griffin, and he said, you know what? He said, let's mention them. Let's make a suggestion. But let's just cover and let's just prove that, A, we are being sprayed, and that these programs are a threat to human health and ecology. And because of that approach, I think we've collectively been effective at bringing this message out to the masses. So what I'm trying to do with the next film is bring people who are aware of this into a deeper knowledge. But as you know, truth, if you throw the whole truth at some people, it can be overwhelming.
That's true. No, that's absolutely true, and it's a good strategy. You know, somebody else can make the film that takes this to the next level, but we've got to at least get people's minds open to it. And it's funny because people are just walking under these giant X's in the sky, and their, you know, respiratory problems and all of this stuff that's happening to them. This is angry people and the dying crops and the funky weather, which is just so easy to blame on mouth breathers and useless eaters, as Henry Kissinger calls us. But they don't even look up and go, you know, that's weird. And I have seen people do it, but for the most part, people just shrug on, go along their daily day. So, I mean, if they can't even see it when it's right over their head, in front of their noses, practically, floating down into their face, then we've got to be kind of professional in the approach. Because I think you had Scott Stevens as the weatherman you might have been mentioning, and he talks a lot about scalar weapons and these devices being used to cause earthquakes and hurricanes and some of these massive weather disasters that we've seen. And that's just certainly another way to use weather as a weapon. We remember Owning the Weather by 2025 was a document put out by the military, and I often say they're not waiting till 2025 to get started on this. They've been working on it constantly, which brings me to a question. Mike Murphy with us. Why in the world are they spraying? Whyangels.info if you want to get a pre-order and get this film out as soon as possible. Be one of the first to get it. Whyangels.info, and why in the world are they spraying? The trailer is at deadlinelive.info and on YouTube for free as well. So let's talk about some other issues here, some other components of this, particularly where's the funding coming from? Is this all corporate? Is there a black budget? Is there something in a congressional document that will reveal that this is being paid for? And on that line, who's being contracted to do it? We've done a story, the Chemtrails, The Final Verdict. You can find that online, myself and Super Mario, where we've got pictures of the planes and pictures of, you know, weather modification, and this is kind of a dual purpose again, that we know it's being done, and here's how they're doing it. But if you could elaborate on where the funding's coming from, who's paying for it, could we reveal that, and who is actually contracted and do the spraying? How much do you know about that?
Well, that's going to be my third film. We did What in the World Are They Spraying? Now we're doing Why in the World Are They Spraying? And then I'm going to do my final film called Who in the Hell is Spraying? And that could be my last film, Jack, but I'm going to take a step forward for humanity. As G. Edward Griffin, my former co-producer, says, when people ask him who's paying for this, he says, you're paying for it. And essentially we are, because if we're in the system, if we're using our FRNs, Federal Reserve notes, that's what drives the system. I know the Intel Hub, my good friend Shepard and the folks over there, did an article called the Secret Chemtrail Budget. So there is a black ops budget in Congress. Right now we're sort of opening the door in terms of what corporations are involved. There's no question that...
We'll up there when we come back with Mike Murphy. We've got a lot more for you, folks. Stay tuned to The Jack Blood Show.
My name is Scott Stevens. I was a television weatherman for 20 years. These chemtrails are absolutely required to impact whatever weather event they were designing. And the trails were an absolute necessary ingredient for them to achieve their weather modification goals.
Chemtrails are a key element in the whole thing because they're obviously a way of putting a highly reflective material into the atmosphere.
With cloud seeding, the cooling will be achieved by making clouds reflect a bit more sunlight back to space than they would otherwise, and less sunlight reaching the surface would tend to cool the planet.
So let's say we were doing geoengineering because we wanted to make the weather a little bit better.
The more we see these trails in the sky, the less rain we get.
Virtually all scientific data, even from the proponents of geoengineering, state clearly saturating the atmosphere with particulates will create drought.
Much has been made of this issue of damage from precipitation.
If the issue is understanding the climatic response, which was, I think, most of where this is going, and is exactly where the precipitation gets higher and lower.
There will be monsoon failures during that period. There'll be huge hurricanes.
It's likely to cause some damage in some places.
The global studies indicate there will be some impact on precipitation patterns, and obviously there's a lot more opportunity for work in that area. Just seeding can be pretty effective for the clouds we explored, but the interactions between seeding and precipitation in the form of drizzle are really complex.
So we're finding the aerosols, the metal particulates, the weather engineering, whether it's scalar, ionic, or orgone, or the chi of the atmosphere, all of those can be used and leveraged to create weather events that are several standard deviations or outside what would be typically normal. Before jumping on the chemtrail bandwagon was I needed a motive. Without a motive, you can't say what they're doing and why they're doing it. You have to have a motive.
Weather derivatives are products that commercial hedgers would use, such as an insurance company or an energy company, to hedge risk that's associated with weather. Precipitation or a hurricane or general heating days is what they're basically called. Certain temperatures or higher temperatures are going to associate with more energy. So they're going to want to hedge that risk. If you can structure a product where you say, okay, I'm going to buy insurance against it raining more than 10 inches in this area. If my risk is say $1 million, but I'm insuring for $10 million, then I can make it rain.
Good morning, America. Rise and shine. Rise and shine. Save our constitutional rights. When they're gonna give up the fight. Start a revolution and break down illegal institutions. We don't want no war no more. Bring our boys home to our shores. We don't want big government or the Bilderberg group that pays for it. Federal identity means a police state. And Mr. Jefferson's rolling in his grave. And our names and the numbers like 666. Lord, do the gospel on a pan of chips.
Rise up and shine. Wake up, please. We're running out of time. The Jack Blood Show, I'm Jack Blood. You're listening to AmericanFreedomRadio.com, DeadlineLive.info. Please, whatever you do, get these interviews out. We've been doing fantastic interviews all week, and we want you to get those out. I mean, it's nice that, the 1,000 people or 2,000, whatever, end up listening to this show naturally are getting this and telling their friends, and that's creating, this great chain of information. But just get this out. Post it. We're going to post YouTubes of these interviews that we do. They're out there. You can cut them yourself. You can use them if you want. And then by all means, please get this great new film. Why in the world are they spraying? Support this effort. I want to see this one and part 3 by Mike Murphy, our guest today on the show. Why in the world are they spraying? Whyangels.info and Truth Media. And I just played you a clip from the film. The trailer is up at YouTube and on DeadlineLive.info. Thanks, Mike, for being with us.
Oh, thanks for having me. Thanks for covering this. Again, the sun is just rising here on Maui, and I'm looking in the sky, and it is just blanketed with aerosols. And again, I've been speaking to the locals, and their food supply is dying off, especially the people that live off of nature and off of the natural balance here. And the concern for them is that when the food supply is destroyed and they're unable to support their families based on nature, they're going to have to go to these corporations, the grocery store, to get their food. So it's going to be some dramatic changes, and it's going to be an end of the freedom that many people here on the island enjoy. And unfortunately, I got news for y'all. This is coming everywhere. And what this is, Jack, what it is that the spiritual, in the spiritual realm of things, this is what every major religion talks about. It is man usurping the authority of God or usurping the authority of nature by genetically modifying and altering the natural composition of things. And what that does, that brings the power of God into the hands of corporations and thus man. So very similar to the GMO seed companies, they do not want people living independent and off of nature because the corporations do not make money. So they genetically modify.
Yeah. That is such the truth. But look, I mean, you're exactly right. But think about it like this, folks. You can't drink the water, you can't breathe the air, and there's no clean food to eat. I mean, I don't know what we just heard Thomas Jefferson mention that song, Rolling in His Grave. If he's sitting bolt upright, maybe listening to this show, and what would these guys do today? I mean, they would just freak out. They would get their guns and start charging people. This is a threat. This is death on the installment plan. I want to go, because we're running out of time, so I got to interrupt you a little bit here, and I just encourage people to go look for Mike Murphy, look for this film. If you haven't seen What in the World Are They Spraying, definitely go see that. Support this new film, Why in the World Are They Spraying, at whyangels.info. I'm not getting a cut of it, but I just so believe in this. The liberals say that we can't get rid of the EPA. You hear the Rick Perrys and all these guys, got to get rid of the EPA. It's hurting our businesses. You know, it's hurting our health is what it is. This is a public health issue. Why are we paying and why are we supporting an EPA that puts poisons in our food, poisons in our water, dioxins up into the air, and chemtrails sprayed over us? We're told that we can't smoke, that secondhand smoke will kill everybody, and we've got to do what they say and on our own private property, that you can't even smoke in your homes in some places in this country. You can't even smoke outside without the cigarette police coming, and obviously I'm a smoker. I'm sticking up for us smokers here, but that's something I do to myself that I choose to do, and I can be around smokers or not be around them. This is unescapable. But here's the hypocrisy, man. You got Fukushima nukes, you know, throwing radiation up into the air and into our food chain, into the water. You got, again, these dioxin plants everywhere. You've got secondhand wireless radiation from our monitoring devices known as our cell phones, and you've got firsthand radiation coming from the airport scanners. This is the ultimate in hypocrisy, and if you could just answer quickly, because I want to get a few more questions in, what good is the EPA then?
Well, EPA is about money and power, and they're the regulators to allow these corporations to do what they do to achieve their goals. And no question about it, geoengineering programs, as David Keith said, he said geoengineering gives man godlike power. And that's what weather control does. That's what these programs do. They consolidate an enormous amount of monetary and political power into the hands of a few. And that's why it is allowed to go on. And those who believe in freedom, corporations do not gain money and power from freedom. And that's why we're losing, one of the reasons why we're seeing our freedoms go away so quickly. So we need to stand up. We need to demand the right to breathe clean, fresh air and have natural systems. I do not want to live in a future where we're sucking up heavy metals with every breath. I do want to live in an environment where I can have freedom, and I will do whatever I have to do to achieve this. And Jack, bottom line is this: we can stop these programs, but we have to get up and we have to speak in a peaceful, nonviolent way and educate people and stand up and say, no, Monsanto, you're not coming into our neighborhood. No.
And not be afraid of this. That's right. If we don't stand up and take action, we've doomed our children and our grandchildren. The future is now. I mean, just to hear that clip about how these hedge funds are using kind of this insider trading method to beat the system by creating the environment is just amazing. I got to get you out on this because we're almost out of time. This is, I guess, my money question. You've got all of this evidence. You've got all of this proof. And yet these people that are out pushing this in a predictive programming manner, getting us ready to accept it with legislation such as the Kay Bailey Hutchinson legislation or even some of the lectures that you've attended, you've got the evidence. We can all see it with our own eyes. When are they going to just admit that they're doing it?
Well, geoengineers now have admitted that they're testing in certain areas with geoengineering programs. So they're admitting, but they're not talking about the full scale that they have implemented these programs on. And the reason is this. These programs, again, are about certain individuals, a very few, consolidating an enormous amount of power into the hands of a few. How do you sell that to the people? How do you say, I am going to spray toxins that are going to destroy your food supply, it's going to harm your children, your parents, and your health, but aren't you excited? I'm going to have godlike power. Well, of course, the public would not buy into that. So what they're doing is programming and selling these programs to the public is something they may have to do to save everybody. It's for the greater good.
The global warming scare is part of this. The climate change, the global warming, this is actually a result of it, the case can be made, and it never gets brought up by people on either side of the global warming climate change debate, if you're for it or against it. Let's get Al Gore on the phone, and maybe he'll go out and help us somehow. Yeah, he'll help us.
I wouldn't hold your breath yet.
He's part of it, and I think that this whole global warming scare fear tactic is all part of reinforcing a problem that they're going to provide the solution for.
The only way these people can get the public to support their agenda, which is not in the best interest of the public, is through fear. That is their MOD. That is what they use, because nobody will support breathing in these micro particles of toxins if they weren't in fear. And that's what they use. Well, it's time to wake up, people. Corporations are doing these things for money.
Great job, Mike Murphy, whyangels.info. Why in the world are they spraying? Go get it. We'll see you Monday, folks. Cindy Sheehan will be our guest. Stay bold.
No rules, no rules, no taboo topics, no taboo topics, no fear of doom, no fear of doom. We are American Freedom Radio, American Freedom Radio.